Welcome back to SwitchCast. We're on the road this week with Taylor Hull. Taylor Hull is a professional drifter. He runs in the Formula Drift Series, and he also is a scofflaw. He's done some cannonball-type activities and actually organizes the Southern Classic, which is a race, not a race, from Lakewood Amphitheater in Georgia to Texarkana to buy some Coors and back again. It's a fitting tribute to the original Bandit Run. I guess they never actually did a race. They filmed the whole thing within 10 minutes of Atlanta. But anyway, it's a really cool event, and Taylor is an all-around car guy that tries to keep the spirit of cars alive in a whole number of different ways. Anyway, he has taken his drift expertise and started a school called Drift University, and he runs that at Mid Pond Racetrack down outside of Birmingham, Alabama, where you can go and learn how to drift from the pros like a pro. And I signed up for his school because I thought I was sort of decent at sliding cars around corners, but realized how rusty I really was and wanted to brush up on my skills. And it was pretty stinking awesome. I learned a lot, and you can actually see the recap video on our YouTube channel. We did kind of a vlog of the event highlighting, well, the highlights. And we interviewed Taylor while we were down there and learned a little bit more about the ins and outs of pro drifting and what it takes to get there, kind of the heartache and success, the roller coaster of trying to be a professional race car driver, and all the politics and drama and fun, all the highs and lows that go along with that. So tune in, listen along, and enjoy this interview with Taylor. Taylor, we're here at Mid Pond Racetrack somewhere in Alabama, near Birmingham, I think.
Yeah, we're not quite to LA yet, but we are in mid to LA.
Yeah, and
the real LA.
I think not quite to LA. I think of a cannonball, but
Lower Alabama.
Yeah, Lower Alabama. That's a thing. Where I grew up in Maine, there was a couple podunk cities called Lewiston, Auburn, and they called that LA, but it was probably about as much crime as the real LA and none of the appeal, but
perfect.
I digress. So we're here at Drift University, which is something you started. So tell us about Drift University.
Yeah, so it's me and my wife's company, and basically we just recognized a hole in the market. There's a couple of these schools in the country, but there's nothing in the Southeast. So we saw a hole in the market, and I've done some instructing with Porsche and some other different companies and oval track racing and road racing, and I was just like, you know what, I'm into drifting. I'm a pro in Formula Drift, and hopefully have enough credentials to say that I know how to do this. And
well, you blew my next question, which is what makes you qualified to do this?
Well, that's in the eye of the beholder, I suppose. But yeah, we have a Formula Drift Pro license, and I got a couple of my buddies that have Formula Drift Pro-Am licenses that are instructing with me, and we just try and I would have loved to have had something like this when I was first getting started in drifting, to not have to go through all the bad habits that I learned. And
drifting on the street.
Right, like drifting on the street, and just things that you do with the wheel and with the throttle and with the brake, and just learning the wrong way, and nobody's there to tell you any different. So creative space that someone qualified can tell you different.
Creative space with constructive criticism.
Yes.
Yep. Okay. Did you go to any driving schools growing up, or were you completely self-taught? I mean, did you do anything like Skip Barber or any car control skills?
No, I had to do defensive driving a couple times due to speeding tickets, but those were suggested by local law enforcement.
Right. Well, they're wrong anyway. I had to do one of those, and they told me that one of the answers to the questions, it was multiple choice, was in what amount of water can a car hydroplane, and the least amount given was 6 inches, and that was the answer. And I'm like, are you kidding me? This is the answer? Can hydroplane in like a tenth of an inch?
Yeah, that's inaccurate information, we'll say.
Come on. I really wish I could have taken the class in person because I would have given the instructor some crap. But anyway, okay, so you started Drift University. How many sessions, how many classes have you done?
We're probably 7 or 8 in now, and we've been very fortunate. So we have a different model than most of the other schools around the country, and that is we have like a 2 student to 1 instructor ratio, and we won't go more than that because it's very, very important to us to have that intimate experience with the student. We feel that that's the way they learn the fastest. They make the most progression from the beginning of the day to the end of the day, or the beginning of the session to the end, whatever they decide to do. And that's sort of our model, and it really has worked. I think you can attest now from where you start at the beginning of the day. If you listen and pay attention and take what we have to say to heart, you will improve, and
right.
you will
right.
get to do this.
Yeah, and I was like grabbing instructors and saying, "Hey, come with me," and I wanted that feedback, and it's certainly a nice change. Not to knock Mid Ohio School at all; they have a great school. But I put my wife through their performance driving school, and it's the typical corporate school where they have 15 drivers and 3 instructors, and so they're doing it via radio and stuff like that. And I was really glad that I was with her in the car because I essentially became her like right seat instructor.
Yeah,
and
that's
she
that way
needed
a lot
that.
Of schools.
Not everybody needs that, but she needed that because she didn't have car control training before that to understand what was going on. And you guys are great because there's always somebody watching either from the track or in the car and giving direct feedback, and that's been really helpful because man, this is really hard. Like, I can slide a car around a little bit. Like, I can put my right foot in it and do power slides. And
it's different than that, though.
I understand car control. I've been to a lot of schools. I'm really confident there. I had my confidence kind of shattered at the beginning of the day. And, like I started out on the figure eights and showed everybody what was up and then went out here and I'm like, I can't slide a car. So it was really good to have that feedback.
Yeah, and look, when I first started drifting, like it put me in check too. This is probably maybe the most humbling motorsport that you can come and do coming from any other type of motorsports, because you can pretty well come off the couch and go to a road course event and at least somewhat look like you know what you're doing.
You cannot wreck.
Yeah, and nobody's gonna make fun of you or anything.
Right.
And that's the other piece of why we kind of did what we did here. So drifting is primarily a younger audience, right? And people are mean. So there's a lot of,
because they have the internet.
Yeah, there's a lot of fear among new people where if they get a car or rent a car or whatever and go out and learn to do this in front of all their friends, that they're going to get made fun of, and sometimes they're right.
Sure.
So we try and create a space here where judgment free. Almost everybody is pretty new, other than the people coming back to learn for more, and those people are willing to share information with the new people too. So it's just a very positive, uplifting type of environment, and that's what we want to foster.
Right. So I've said that I think everybody that's on the road should go to some sort of advanced performance driving school. Car control, obviously, this one's a little beyond that and more of the show off fun stuff, but it very much, you have to get car control to be able to slide a car around.
It's still practical.
Yeah, for sure. I guess my question would be, what are your recommended prerequisites to a school like this? Because even in this school, so we have it runs the gamut. So we've got a couple guys that have basically no experience at all, a couple guys, myself included, that have a lot of road course experience, and one guy who came from sim experience, and all varying degrees of success. What have you seen is the best way to come into a school like this to get the most out of it?
It really does vary. The best advice that I could give to anybody is have as much real world driving experience as you possibly can and know how to drive a manual transmission. And I've had people come that don't, and they spend the first half of the day. I've actually done a couple of private classes where we just go down to a road and do 4 hours of just learning to drive a manual transmission. And kid was 15 and did that, did a half-day class, learned how to drive a 5-speed, came to the school the next week, and did great. I mean,
awesome.
he had some sim experience, and it's crazy to say because I did not learn how to drive like that at all.
Me neither.
But
And I can't drive a sim. I'm terrible at it.
I'm not good at it either.
Yeah.
But these kids that are coming in to my school with sim experience, most of them are doing well.
Yeah.
And it really, I couldn't be more surprised by that. But I've seen it several times over. I mean, the results speak for themselves.
Yeah,
the kid
I
here
kind
today
of had
that's
to.
killing it.
Yeah, that's. I was just going to speak to that. I had to kind of eat my words because somebody asked me about sim driving and my opinion on it a few weeks ago on an episode, and I was like, yeah, whatever. Like maybe it's good for improving your skills, but like it doesn't make you a really good driver because you don't have that fear factor and the real vehicle dynamics. And I mean, the proof is in the pudding. The best driver, the fastest learner out here today was a kid who had not much experience.
Never even been to a drift event.
Right, and just killed it because he's been on the sim.
The good thing about that, when I'm trying to put together of how this is possible, is just the amount of time that you can spend doing that as opposed to other things. Like even us doing road racing or oval racing, it's a very short amount of time in the grand scheme of things. We don't get to go home at night and go practice that.
Yeah, that's true.
They do. Even if it's just a fake wheel and fake pedals, you still have the muscle memory of doing that.
Right.
And like you said, the proof's in the pudding. It works.
Right. All right, so let's talk about drifting in general. So you are a pro drifter. I think a lot of people assume that any pro drifter, pro racer means you just get paid to go do it.
Yeah.
And pro racing is not that easy. So I would say, tell me if I'm accurate here. In pro racing, drifting, any type of motorsports, you have a very, very small contingency of pros who are actually getting paid decent money to do it. You have a large contingency of people with either their own money, parents' money, major financial backing who are in it, and then a small contingency of people who bootstrap it. Is that
I
fairly
think that's
accurate?
pretty well fair across all motorsports. That's a general, I think, blanket way to look at all of it, and it is a microcosm. FD is a microcosm of that for sure. So,
so how did you? What of those? Where of those three do you fall? And how did you get to be a pro? And what's that really like?
So I would say somewhere in between the final two, and I definitely was the last one for a long time. Just
bootstrapping it.
Yeah, just trying to scratch, claw, fight, figure out any kind of way to make it happen on no budget whatsoever. I still have this little Nigerian tire place down the street that I went and bought used tires and ran all the way through Pro-Am on, like, I might have a 235 on one side and a 255 on the other side, not the same brand. Just whatever I could find. The dude cut me a deal for like $5 a tire. It's
That's
gone up
awesome.
significantly since then, but just trying to find any way. And throughout the course of the last 10 years, we've been fortunate enough to hook up with some great companies like Comp Cams and Yellow Speed Racing and Liqui Moly, Caterpillar this year, and finally get some backing and some help and a way to progress our whole program forward.
Is Caterpillar going to try to get you to start drifting like with the Caterpillar track vehicles or
I'm ready.
something?
I'm ready.
That might
They
be
got
good,
the torque.
That might be good promo. Celebrity Machines is a proud sponsor of SwitchCast. Celebrity Machines offers more than 250 different screen-accurate license plates as they appeared in movies and TV shows like Back to the Future, Ghostbusters, The Fast and the Furious, Breaking Bad, and so many more. Celebrity Machines also makes our dealer insert plates as well as our commemorative 2539 plates from the fastest cannonball run ever. If you're looking for a gift for somebody you like or for garage art for your own place, check out celebritymachines.com for more info and use promo code SWITCHCAST for a 25.39% discount at checkout. Again, go to celebritymachines.com and use discount code SWITCHCAST. Yeah. Okay, so you said the last 10 years. So how long was the journey overall between when you were drifting on back roads in your parents' car? I assume that's how you started, and where you're at now.
So I started doing asphalt oval track racing in 2003 when I was 13.
Okay.
And did that for about 10 years. I was the wild-eyed kid that had aspirations of NASCAR all the way up till I was it probably set in at 18 or 19 that this probably is not going to happen. I looked at my bank account.
Nowadays, you realize by 8 years old that it is or isn't going to happen.
Yeah, I had the pipe dream looking at my bank account, my parents' bank account, and where we lived and where the other people around me lived and what trailers they were showing up in. And I was like, I don't think this is going to happen for me.
Yeah.
So as much as I still love oval track racing, I kind of took a look around and did some self-reflection. I was like, all right, well, what? And that by itself kind of soured it for me a little bit, if I'm being honest. It's kind of a hard thing to accept that motorsports, racing specifically, is probably the only sport really anywhere where the best players don't play on Sunday.
Yeah, it's a really good observation and really difficult. So when I was in high school, and it hasn't always been that way, right? So you look at historical racing, and granted, back in the early days of racing, they'd take anyone who would get in the driver's seat because they might not come back. So they had to have drivers, literally disposable drivers. But it has progressed to such that, when I was a teenager, I wanted to be a pro race car driver. Granted, I didn't actually have the skills. I just thought I did. But I knew a guy who raced Formula Atlantic, and, he said it cost him $25,000 a weekend to go out. And he said, do you know the owner of Pepsi? I said, no. He said, okay, well, you're not going to be a pro driver.
It's so much more than just
now,
driving.
That was an easy letdown for me, because a harder letdown would be you don't have the skills, which I didn't. But the same happens for people who do have the skills. And, as a part-time musician, like most of the time in music, if you have the skills, you'll make it.
Yep.
That's a little bit more nuanced and partly about right time, right place. But in sports, if you have the skills, you'll make it. In business, if you have the skills, usually you'll make it. In racing,
you got to have the talent, the business, and you got to be likable enough for somebody to have
the blonde hair, the blue eyes.
Yeah. Either your parents have got to have money or somebody's got to really like you that does.
Yeah.
To get to that point. So that kind of got me, once I came to that realization that the oval track thing was just a pipe dream, I kind of looked around and I'm like, well, how am I going to, I still love cars and motorsports and racing. What else is there out there that maybe there's a little easier path to get into? And I never really had any aspirations of going pro. That was so far out of reach for me when I sold my oval track stuff and bought a $10,000 drift car. By the time it was all said and done, I was just going to go and drive and enjoy it and have some fun with my friends. But I'm so competitive, as you know.
Yes.
And I couldn't leave well enough alone.
Who's going to win at karting next time?
Yeah, exactly. So it didn't take 6 months before I was entering competitions and working my way up, and I kind of just accidentally got a pro spec or pro 2 license at the time, and I was like, well, hell, I've got the license. It'd be a shame to not use it. I'm at least going to go give it a shot, and did that for a year and almost got my pro license that year. I was one spot out of getting my pro license. The top 8 get their license, and I finished 9th. And then the second year, I finished high enough and got my license. And, once you get that far, it's like, I got my pro license. I kind of can't stop now. And, we're 6 or 7 years into that now. And we finished top 10 in 2020, had a miserable letdown of a season last year. And so far this year is going much better.
Nathan's Detailing is a proud sponsor of SwitchCast. Nathan's Detailing is a company in Cleveland, Ohio that provides mobile detailing services for individuals and dealerships. They also offer PPF and ceramic coating installations. With over 800 Google reviews and an impressive 4.9-star rating, Nathan's Detailing is the go-to shop for all of your detailing and protection needs. With Nathan's, convenience is key. Their mobile detailing technicians bring the power, water, and supplies to your home or work and detail your car on site. Check out the link in our description for free interior fabric protection or leather conditioning with your purchase. At Nathan's Detailing, this smiles for you. All right. So you've got pretty good sponsorship now. You were in a Cadillac CTS
ATS.
for the last ATS. I'm sorry, for the last few years, and you sold that off and bought a Corvette Z06, which I think is super cool.
Just it looks like a Z06, but I didn't do the Z06 only for the fact that it has an aluminum frame.
Okay.
And we go all over the country, and we wreck these cars. And as far as trackside repairs or finding somebody across all of God's creation to help you in a pinch, I went with the steel chassis for that specific reason of being able to fix something.
Right. Well, what is it? TIG welding with aluminum you have to do, and not
somebody
as
that's
many people
very
do that.
qualified on a frame machine.
Right.
If you heard it,
right.
So that's why I had the option to buy a shell actually for the same price, a Z06 aluminum chassis or the steel chassis, and I still opted the steel.
Gotcha. Okay. So you're bootstrapping it essentially. You do have sponsors. What does it cost to run a season doing pro drifting?
I mean, it's pretty much $100,000 no matter how you cut it.
Plus the entry fee of the car.
Well, that's including the entry fee, but it's not
sorry,
including.
I mean like the.
It's not including the car.
The car,
like building the car.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, if you're gonna go out and do it right, and by the time you get everybody to the track, you have a place for them to stay. You put fuel in the truck. You fix the car every time it gets torn up. You enter the events, which is expensive. Spare parts. It's expensive.
Yeah. Yeah, and you do it pretty cheap because you have a lot of volunteers and a lot of help, a lot of people that want to see you do well.
Absolutely.
When you're at this level, obviously, to get to this level, for most people, it takes a bunch of money. But money doesn't ultimately buy skill, right? It buys a lot of training,
Yep.
But it can't give you, I guess, the X factor that you need to win. Are you seeing some redemption in that now that you're being competitive and saying, okay, I can take some of these guys out even on a far lesser budget?
Yes. I equate it to like moving up the ranks in oval track racing towards NASCAR. There's late models and all these different forms of stock cars, and the higher you get in that, the more the car matters. I like to equate it of if you're going to go win in those type of cars, late models and on up to NASCAR, the car is going to give you 75% of what you need to go be competitive, and 25% of that is the driver. I tend to say that this is flipped the other direction to some degree. I think the driver matters more in this than any other motorsport I've ever been a part of. I can take a car that is $100,000 car and go compete and win against a $500,000 car or $750,000 car, and I don't think there's anywhere else that can say that with confidence.
Gotcha. Speaking of a $500,000 car, there's a yellow Ferrari 599 in Formula Drift that is fairly famous, I guess. What the heck did that thing cost to build?
I have not asked Federico that question. He is a good friend of mine, and we've talked at length. But I don't know what that car's story is. I don't know if he got it as like a strip shell or a salvage situation, or if he bought a Ferrari 599 and stripped it down to make a drift car. I hope that's not the answer. But
the spare parts, the engineering that go into it. I mean, at least with a Corvette, there's people out there on the aftermarket catering to the parts you need.
That's exactly
You're not
why I'm
fabricating everything from scratch. With a 599, he's the only one.
Yeah, he's in the same situation I was in with the Cadillac, and that's why I'm not in the Cadillac anymore.
Gotcha.
There are very high quality engineered parts available from multiple different manufacturers for Corvettes and many other drift cars, and all the angle kits and everything else that it took to get the Cadillac to be a drift car were by me and a few other people like me in a shop like, wonder if this will work. And we tried, and over the course of 4 years we made it work, and it was pretty good. But I'm 3 events into this year with the Corvette, and it's better.
Yeah. That's really cool. So you like banked courses, right?
I do. I mean, I grew
Why
up on
is
oval
that?
track.
Oh,
so
yeah, okay, that makes sense.
I'm just, it's home for me. It feels good. They don't intimidate me like they do some people. I spent the first 10 years of my motorsports career on banks.
Is it the banking or the walls that intimidate people?
Yes.
Or both? Okay. I mean, well, that's why I don't like. That's why it's scarier to try stuff on the street because of the consequences. So I get that. If there's a wall nearby, like,
And they want you
on the wall, touching it. Yeah.
as close as you can get. And when there's very, very slim margin for error, I say, drifting is, it's the only form of motorsport that I believe you can go out by yourself forever and still have a good time. Oval track, no chance. Road racing eventually will get boring by yourself. You need to be racing to have a good time. This, not that way.
Right.
I don't think if I ever lose the butterflies right before I send it off into a corner at 80 or 90 miles an hour up against a wall, I'm either dead or I need to quit, because it's crazy what we're being asked to do, and to put the car on a razor's edge,
right,
and not try to not stick it in the fence.
That's awesome. How many times a year do you stuff a car? I mean, those drift cars, they look good on TV. Okay, average. And not this year, but they look good on TV, but they're really, really a mess in person.
I never stuffed the Cadillac. And your version of stuffing and mine might be different.
Okay, yeah, like bumpers coming off. What would on a normal track day be a really bad day for somebody on a drifting event is no big deal because you come with spare bumpers and spare wheels and axles and stuff like that. To me, stuffing a car,
if you're on a bank track specifically, use that as an example, and you initiate on the bank and you hit the wall at the right rear and you come around and hit it with the front, you've stuffed it.
Right, but you're done for the day.
Maybe not. It depends on which way the tires are turned. Like there's a lot of factors that go into that.
Right.
We may have to take a break here. It's almost time for you to drive again.
Oh, okay. All right. I got to go out and show my stuff.
Yeah, you're gonna get to drive. You drove the Mustang, or no?
I drove the Mustang.
You drove the Mustang this
which
morning,
I loved.
And now you're going to get to drive the Z, so you'll get to compare the two when we resume this.
Right.
This podcast.
Yeah. The one thing I noticed, so the Mustang was really, really good as a road course car. Like I'd love to just go out and do hot laps in that car, but a good road course car is a little too stable, I think, for a drift car. You want them to be a little loose, I guess, but
especially
at least
for a
set
school
the
car
threshold
like this.
right. The threshold was higher to get it really upset.
Yeah.
So I like when I'm screwing around, I like doing it on old tires or in the rain because, there's less to go wrong. But watching you guys tandem out there in the Corvette and the Nissan, I felt a little bit better because I'm like, man, that Nissan is super loose and it's a slower speed. You're having to push that Mustang.
Yeah, you got to hustle it
to get it sideways. And so I'm like, all right, I'm reasonably confident that I'm going to fare a little bit better in the Nissan, even though it won't sound as good.
I think you might too.
We'll see how it goes. Awesome, thanks. SwitchCast is brought to you by BoxCast. BoxCast is a live streaming company based in Cleveland, Ohio, and they serve broadcasters and viewers around the world. Their founders launched BoxCast back in 2013 with one purpose: to make people part of the experience. If you're looking to live stream your podcast, church service, car show, sporting event, your wedding, or even your cannonball attempt, BoxCast is an easy, flexible live streaming platform for organizations and individuals. BoxCast is so easy, we're broadcasting this from a phone. Head over to switchcars.com/boxcast for your free trial. Again, it's switchcars.com/boxcast for your free trial. That would be my one complaint about this is... not enough alcohol. I don't know if that would improve or the driving or not, but
it's close course.
Oh gosh, well that was exhausting. I did drive the 350Z after the Mustang. It was a totally different car. It was way looser, which made it a little bit easier after a while. I think I would have wanted to start with the 350.
And graduate to the
Mustang. But yeah, like the Mustang, I think I said this already, but it would make a really, really good track car because it's so grippy and it's so planted.
Very.
And it takes a lot to get it over the line. But, I went out in that 350Z and just spun it because it was so much looser. But once I got it, it was easier to link those turns.
Yeah, I think you did really well on the 350Z. It was, you did well on both, but kind of to finish the day, just the consistency was absolutely there, and you did a great job.
Thanks, man. I don't like
on to advanced class.
I don't like sucking at things. So some of it's stubbornness and competitiveness and just a dogged determination to figure it out. So, but you guys were really great teachers and all that. So, so it's interesting because there's people from all aspects, all walks of experience and all levels here. And I was thinking over the course of the day, like there were some people I'm watching them, I'm like, they're just not getting it. They're not going to get it. They're understeering. They're doing this. I just don't see that being overcome. And you guys just rotated in and out. And kind of the summary phrase I came up with in my observation is not everyone learned the same, but everyone learned something.
Yep.
Like we all moved from here to somewhere better than when we started.
Absolutely. I mean, we've come up with a general formula that I believe works, which is starting with circle donuts both ways, bigger circle donuts both ways, figure eights, and then onto the track. But it's not a one size fits all. It's one size fits most, and then there's anomalies that learn better on the track than they do in the parking lot, and we have to kind of realize at some point where there's a stop and we have to pull the plug on it and find a different way, because otherwise you spend the whole day doing one thing, whereas they might learn better in a different way. And that's the beauty of having 2 or 3 different instructors, is I might not be able to communicate a message in the way that somebody needs to hear it always, but maybe Michael can, or maybe Hunter can.
Right.
So we're all very different, come from different backgrounds, and it's nice to have some different perspectives, I think.
Right. I think that's the case with anything. I would, teaching skiing, some people just can't communicate what they need to communicate, or, don't observe the same things, or the person doesn't receive that. So we got some fun. We got some drifting going on in the background here.
Yep.
But what would be your advice for somebody that is kind of just getting into cars and driving and wants to become a pro drifter? I mean,
Come
I
to
know
Drift
that's
University.
right. This isn't a commercial, but this is like you've gone the whole, and obviously you didn't have the advantage of having a school, but you've walked that entire road from start to finish. What would be your advice to people that want to do it?
In all seriousness, I do think this works, but outside of this and me promoting my school,
well, this is a good foundation.
Yeah, it really is.
I mean, if you want to get into racing, period, you start at school.
Yeah, eventually, if you're going to continue to do this, you're going to want your own car. Get a car that you can afford and that you can afford to continue to drive. I can't stress enough, do not build your first drift car. Go buy one that's already done. So many people get caught up in the endless cycle of building a pro car, and you're not a pro driver. You don't need a pro car. You need a car. You need something very similar to what we have. All 3 of our cars at the school are pretty base level, and they're that way on purpose so that anybody can learn.
He's got sparks coming from the rear tire.
Yep.
That's
These tires
awesome.
are done on Michael's car that's out driving right now.
I think there's a couple things there. One of them is affirming the best decision I made today was getting a rental.
Yeah.
Right. So you guys were using fairly
you
stock
like
cars. Yeah, fairly stock cars. Well, I'm talking about just like enjoyment of the day, right? Like everybody, I think, that brought their car didn't get the full experience because their car kept breaking on them. And you guys used fairly stock, hardly modified cars, and that's a recipe for reliability. You're just beating the snot out of them all day long. They're not going to win a drift event, but they work for what we're doing. What you're doing here. And the second is affirming what you said. Like even I do lemons racing, right? It's basic, But when we sold our first race car and we wanted to go up a class, we started from scratch. And we're $20,000+ into a build. And when we were like halfway through, but totally committed to it, no turning back, we found a better car on eBay, all done for $8,000.
Yep.
No, it probably needed some sorting, but it was just like,
But the
gosh
hard
darn
work's
it!
done.
Like it's always the answer is
Buy one already
buy
done.
one already done. Like building is never the
Find
answer.
someone that gave up on their dreams and relieve them of their misery. It's true. I mean, it's coming from somebody that's built many, many cars. I built my most recent pro car, but it's only because I had a very specific vision of what I wanted, and there was nothing out there for sale. So that's a little bit different thing. But someone will be selling a pretty base level drift car of some kind if that's something that you want to get into. And like you said, finding something that you don't have to modify the powertrain in initially. That's what we've got. The powertrains are stock in these cars. Stock motor, stock trans. It's a welded diff, and we modify the suspension to work. That stuff's pretty easily replaceable. It's reasonably priced to get into, and it's not going to affect the reliability for the most part. It's the drivetrain that affects that. And if you keep these things, the factories are pretty smart, and they design them a certain way for a reason. If you keep them in that design, they're going to last for the most part, short of an anomaly.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I love modified cars. Stock cars are boring, but I pay the price for that too.
As do I, and I have and will continue to.
Yep. Awesome. Well, thank you. This has been an awesome experience. It's definitely leveled me up in my driving game. I can't wait to go try it on the street when the cops are behind me.
Perfect.
That is what the point of this is, right?
Yeah, that's the graduation. There is. I want to see you on the news.
Yeah.
And but they're gonna be like, I don't know who this guy was. He got away. Don't like OJ it.
Right. Awesome.
But
well,
you like your wife, so
I do. And she likes me not in jail. Well, thank you for just starting this business, making something that we can attend. And thanks for being just a great host and teacher and all that. Thanks for being a friend. How can people get in touch with you, follow you in your Formula Drift career this year? How can people get in touch with you about the school? Give all your stuff.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. You can search at Taylor Hull 82 or at Taylor Hull Racing. I'm going to come up on one of those three searches across social media. And then Drift University, you can look online, Instagram at Drift University, and our website is thedriftuniversity.com. So
Awesome.
You can go on there, reach out to us. It'll be me or my wife tomorrow that gets back to you. And I'm not saying this because I'm trying to create urgency, but every time we open up a class, it books up pretty quickly. As I said earlier,
I found that I barely got in. So.
Yeah,
because I was thinking about it.
Yeah, and it's just because of we keep it so small so that we
Yep.
can have that intimate setting and everybody actually progress. That's why it's
Yep.
that's why it books up fast, because we don't have many spots. So
Yep.
I'm very, very fortunate to say we've sold out every class we've ever done, and I think almost everybody has left here with an extremely positive experience and having gotten better than when they got here.
Right. Awesome.
So thank you very much for coming.
Absolutely. It was
Really enjoyed
so much
having
fun.
you. You did awesome. The progression from the first time in the parking lot, not that you did bad, but having never drifted, you going from circle donuts to full on advanced style stuff.
Yeah. Well, it felt good. I was glad to learn. I don't know. It was such a. I'm still processing all of it.
It's a very technical,
exhausting,
hard
but
track.
Man,
and
it was
when you get it, it feels good.
Yeah. No, that was awesome. Well, thank you again, and I'm sure I'll see you again soon at some sort of
scofflaw activities.
Right. Yes. That will not be talked about until after they're completed.
Absolutely. Something along the lines of the shirt that you've got on,
right?
or something similar to it.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks, Taylor.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that again as much as I did. I have a lot of fun with these interviews, learning more about the people that I know and like, and learning just more about parts of the automotive industry and automotive passion that I'm not quite familiar with. So I hope that was enjoyable for you guys. It is time now for the props and flops of the week. These props and flops are brought to you by SwitchCars. SwitchCars is the enthusiast dealership where we buy, sell, consign, service, and store only cars that we like ourselves. Check out our hand-picked inventory at switchcars.com or drop us a line directly, as often many of the cars don't even make it onto the website. Our pick of the week from SwitchCars inventory is a new arrival. It is a 2000 Corvette convertible in Millennium Yellow. It has just 41,000 miles on it, and it's a 6-speed manual. Honestly, the reason this one gets my pick of the week is because it's a yellow Corvette in a manual. I feel like every other one is automatic. Maybe I'm stereotyping, but whatever. If you want a yellow Corvette, that's a manual. If you like flying kind of under the radar, you're a fan of subtlety, this is the one for you. So the flop of the week comes to us all the way from Ireland. A company called Vale Automotive, who used to make limo conversions, took the pandemic shutdown as an opportunity to make pseudo Porsche GT1 body kits for 986 Boxsters. Although they're not really GT1 kits, they look kind of like a hodgepodge between that and a 918 Spider and a couple other things. But anyway, I'm no fan of body kits in general, and especially not fakies, but at least this may save some people from doing their own homebrewed Florida man abominations on Boxster chassis. Yeah, I don't know the quality of Vale Automotive. These things may be really high quality. I can't speak to that because I haven't seen them. But if limo conversions in Ireland are anything like the ones I've seen stateside, which have more waves in the metal than a beach on the Atlantic during a hurricane, then I'm not super optimistic. But I guess this is the unintended consequence of Boxsters being just really, really cheap, as you get people doing funny things with them. So anyway, to each his own. This whole thing, it just isn't me. I don't like body kits. And thanks to Jim Szabo for the tip on this one. Prop of the week comes to us from Ford. Their new Raptor R has 700 horsepower utilizing the GT500 engine. That's right, friggin' redneck gas guzzlers. Here you go. The only hybrid power in this thing is a supercharger that's connected to a big V8 engine. And this is really cool, especially in the face of the all-electric F-150 Lightning, which, of course, the Lightning name, I guess it's fitting, that it's for an electric car, but the Lightning name comes to us from the Ford F-150 SVT Lightning, which was a supercharged V8 back in the day. Although as much as I want to make fun of this EV technology, let's be honest, the Raptor R and the SVT Lightning probably have about the same range with the abysmal MPGs that the Raptor likely gets. Although I have to note that they need a new copy editor. As their website states, quote unquote, its pulse is measured in RPMs, not beats. But there's an apostrophe in its, making it a contraction, not a possessive pronoun. My wife would have a conniption fit over that. Improper placement of apostrophes and possessive pronouns is her pet peeve. Anyway, thank you guys for joining us once again. Thank you to my guest, Taylor Hull, to our sponsors, Boxcast, Nuts for Sticks, SwitchCars, Celebrity Machines, Stephen Holm Woodworking, and Nathan's Detailing, and to our producer, Ethan Huffnagel. Our bumper music is provided by Emily and Ivory. You can stream the full album on Spotify or SoundCloud. This episode will be available Friday in audio format wherever you listen to podcasts. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next Wednesday at 8 p.m. with a new guest as we look forward to answering your automotive questions and entertaining you to help you on the drive of your life.